There is a very specific feeling that just kind of hits you when you walk through those sliding glass doors of a hotel in a foreign country.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very distinct moment.
Right. Like you've been traveling for, 14 hours? You are dragging this heavy luggage across a pristine marble floor.
And the wheels are doing that awful squeaking thing.
Yes. The squeaking. And that suitcase suddenly feels, it feels twice as heavy as it did when you packed it in your bedroom.
Oh, without a doubt.
You are totally exhausted, maybe a little disoriented from the time change, and right there, just looming across the lobby, is the front desk.
It's intimidating. It really is a highly unique environment, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, you aren't just tired. You're stepping onto a stage.
You're performing.
Exactly. You're about to perform this social ritual that will literally dictate how the next few days of your life are going to unfold.
And that's exactly what we're looking at today.
Right. Today, we are going to hack that ritual. We're going to take you from being an anxious traveler who is, just trying to survive a foreign environment and transform you into a confident, respected patron who commands top-tier service.
And doing it all just by changing the literal words you use.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're going to be exploring this fascinating framework from a guide called Checking In, the Essential and Advanced Hotel English Guide.
Such a great resource.
It really is. And what makes this manual so brilliant is that it's divided into two completely distinct levels of hospitality interactions.
Right. It establishes a baseline first.
Yeah, it starts by giving you the absolute survival toolkit, what it calls A2 to B1 level English, basically just to get through a stay without anything catching on fire.
Just keeping your head above water.
Exactly. But then it completely switches gears. It turns into this masterclass on advanced C1 level linguistic strategies.
It's a massive paradigm shift. And actually, before we go any further, it's probably helpful to clarify those codes for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. What exactly are those levels?
So when the guide talks about A2, B1, or C1, it's referring to the common European framework of reference for languages.
The CEFR.
Exactly, the CEFR. It's essentially the global standard for measuring how well you speak a language.
Okay, got it.
So A2 and B1, those are your intermediate functional survival levels. You can communicate basic needs like, buying food or finding a bathroom.
The bare minimum to exist in society.
Right. But C1 is advanced. It's approaching near native fluency where you start to understand nuance and tone and those hidden social meanings.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So thinking about it through that lens, a comparison immediately comes to mind.
Oh, what's that?
Well, learning the basic A2 level of this guide is kind of like learning the basic rules of chess.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Like you learn how the knight moves, how the pawn moves, just so you don't make an illegal move and get, disqualified from the game entirely.
Yeah, just try not to lose immediately.
Exactly. But that advanced C1 level, that is learning the Grandmaster strategies.
The real tactic.
Yeah. It's learning how to control the center of the board, how to think, like 3 moves ahead, so you can actually win the game and extract the absolute best possible experience out of your stay.
I love that framing. That's so accurate. And to truly understand why we need those Grandmaster strategies in the first place, we have to look at the hospitality industry for what it truly is.
Which is what, exactly?
Well, a hotel is not just a building where you rent a bed for the night. It is an incredibly complex, high-pressure social ecosystem.
With a ton of moving parts.
Exactly. It has its own unspoken rules, rigid hierarchies, and intense stress points.
So true.
So the language you use at the front desk, it does not just communicate your baseline physical needs. Your language actively signals your social awareness.
It tells them who you are.
Right. It broadcasts your level of empathy and sophistication, and in turn, it fundamentally shapes how those human beings standing across that marble desk are going to respond to you.
Right. It's a mutual performance. We're all playing a part.
Okay.
But before we can start deploying these advanced chess strategies, we really have to establish the baseline.
We need to see the board first.
Yeah, we must establish the foundational interactions of a hotel stay to understand exactly what those Grandmaster techniques are building upon and ultimately modifying.
Where do we start?
So let's imagine you've just walked in, you finally make it to the reception desk. The guide lays out the initiation of this interaction, and it distills it down to one perfectly functional phrase.
Just one?
Just one. You walk up and say, "Hello, I have a reservation." It's under the name, and then, you provide your name.
It's incredibly simple.
It really is, but does exactly what it needs to do, right?
Right. It initiates the sequence. Honestly, it is the linguistic equivalent of scanning a barcode.
Beep, here I am.
Exactly. You are triggering the bureaucratic process of checking in. And that process almost universally requires two physical items from the guest to establish trust.
The dreaded paperwork phase.
Right. You need official identification, which is typically a passport if you are traveling internationally, and of course, a credit card.
Ah, yes, the credit card phase. This brings us to a really fascinating vocabulary moment in the guide.
It's a very specific term they use.
Yeah, the receptionist will ask for that card, and they will almost always use this very specific industry term. They will say they need to place a hold on the card for incidentals.
Incidentals, yes.
Now, technically, the guide explains that incidentals cover any extra charges you might incur.
Like what?
Like drinking an overpriced soda from the mini fridge, or maybe ordering a movie on the TV.
A $12 bottle of water.
Exactly. But let me ask you about the reality of this. Because when a hotel smiles at you and politely asks for a credit card for incidentals, is that just like a heavily sanitized, PR-approved way of saying, we don't actually trust you not to raid the minibar in the middle of the night and then run away without paying?
I mean, from a purely operational standpoint, yes, it is absolutely a risk management strategy. They are securing a deposit against potential theft or consumption. But what's fascinating here is how the specific word incidentals neutralizes the inherent accusation in that transaction.
Neutralizes it how?
Well, think about the psychological weight of handing over your credit card in a foreign country to a total stranger.
It's stressful. You're vulnerable.
Exactly. If they looked at you and said, we need a damage and theft deposit, it would immediately put the guest on the defensive.
Oh, I'd be insulted. Like, I'm not going to steal your towels.
Right. It introduces hostility right off the bat. By framing the potential charges as incidental, meaning minor, secondary, almost accidental occurrences, they completely remove the friction.
Sounds so harmless.
It does. At this basic A2 or B1 survival level of language, the focus is entirely functional. The guest is just a passive recipient of a service.
You just do what you're told.
Yeah, you hand over the card, you accept the hold on your funds, and the language used by both parties is designed merely to grease the wheels of the transaction.
Greasing the wheels. That is the perfect way to describe it, because right after you hand over that card, you are hit with this massive barrage of logistical information.
It's an information overload.
It really is. The receptionist hands you a key card. They tell you you're in room 405 on the 4th floor, and the elevators are to the left.
Here's a tiny slip of paper.
Yes, the tiny paper with a complicated Wi-Fi password that has a 0 and an O, and you can't tell the difference.
It's always impossible to read.
Always. And then they tell you breakfast is served from 7:00 a.m. to 10:00 a.m. in the downstairs dining room, but the gym is open 24 hours. It is just an absolute data dump on a brain that is already exhausted from travel.
The cognitive load during a standard check-in is remarkably high.
It's like taking a pop quiz when you're half asleep.
It is. And at the foundational language level, your linguistic capacity is entirely consumed by just absorbing and confirming this data.
You're not making small talk.
Not at all. You are not actively shaping the social interaction. You are simply processing the logistics required for your physical survival within the building.
You just take the key, you nod, and you desperately try to find the elevator.
Exactly.
You are just following the script. So let's say you've absorbed the data, you've taken your key, and you've actually made it up to room 405.
Success.
Right. You drop your bags. But then you realize there's a problem.
Oh, no.
Maybe you need something extra, or maybe something in the room is just broken. The guide provides a very clear toolkit for this baseline problem solving.
It relies on what it calls the golden phrases.
Yeah, what are those again?
These are the foundational building blocks of a transactional request. Basically, I would like and can I have?
Right. So you pick up that little bedside phone, you dial reception, you just plug in a golden phrase like, can I have some more towels, please?
Simple and effective.
Or if you are facing a mechanical issue, you just state the problem as a direct binary fact. The air conditioning isn't working, or the TV isn't working.
Notice the rigidity of that structure, though. The air conditioning isn't working.
Very blunt.
It is direct, and it is undeniably clear, but it is also entirely devoid of nuance.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the speaker identifies a binary state. The machine is either broken or not broken, and they report it to the authority figure.
Like a child telling a teacher that a toy is broken.
Yes. It gets the job done, certainly, but it establishes a very cold, demanding dynamic.
It definitely feels a bit blunt. And that same functional directness, it applies to the very end of the trip too.
The checkout.
Yeah. When it's time to leave, the guide notes that the basic approach is to walk up to the desk and simply say, "Hello, I'd like to check out, please."
Very straightforward.
You hand over the key, you pay the bill, and you offer a standard closer. "Thank you, I had a great stay."
It is the ultimate transactional exit.
Cut and dry.
You have consumed the service, you have exchanged currency for that service, and you are closing the loop with baseline, almost robotic politeness.
So, looking at this entire first phase, the survival toolkit, it really is defined by passivity.
Entirely.
You state your name, you hand over your documents when prompted, you state your problems as absolute facts, and you leave.
And to be fair, it works.
Yeah, you won't end up sleeping on the street.
It works, but it leaves absolutely no room for optimization. Relying solely on functional language keeps you firmly categorized in the hotel system as an average, unremarkable guest.
It's a face in the crowd.
Exactly. You will receive exactly the standard baseline of service and nothing more.
Which brings us to the pivot. This is where we move from the basic rules of the game to the Grandmaster strategies.
This is the fun part.
Yeah. How do we shift from being that passive guest who just accepts whatever room they are given to becoming a proactive architect of our own travel experience?
You have to change the mindset completely.
And the guide transitions into this C1 advanced mindset. And interestingly, it doesn't actually start at the front desk.
No, it moves chronologically backwards.
Right. It looks at the steps you take days before you even arrive at the property.
This is a crucial distinction. The advanced traveler understands that your relationship with the hotel staff does not begin when you walk through those sliding glass doors.
When does it begin?
It begins with your very first point of contact, which is often digital.
Right. The guide contrasts the basic arrival with a highly strategic pre-arrival move, sending a carefully crafted email a day or two in advance.
Heading the stage.
Let's look at the example provided in the text. Say you are a light sleeper.
A very common problem.
Yeah. The basic A2 instinct is to just wait till you get to the desk exhausted and bluntly say, "I want a quiet room."
Which is a demand.
But the C1 speaker writes something entirely different. Let me read the exact phrasing suggested here.
Go ahead.
It says, "Dear Sir Madam, I am writing regarding my upcoming reservation. I am a very light sleeper, and I was hoping it might be possible to allocate a room for me that is away from the elevator in any high traffic areas. I would be most grateful for your assistance."
We really need to dissect the mechanics of that specific request because it is performing a tremendous amount of social heavy lifting.
Oh, it feels so different.
Let's look at the core request phrase. I was hoping it might be possible.
It is so much softer and more hesitant than just saying "I want" or "I need."
Exactly. In linguistics, we call these softeners or mitigating devices.
Mitigating devices.
Right. By saying, I was hoping it might be possible, you are explicitly acknowledging the autonomy and the authority of the hotel staff.
You're not backing them into a corner.
No, you are not issuing a demand that corners them into subservience. You are presenting a personal vulnerability, being a light sleeper, and allowing them the space and the agency to solve it for you.
Wow.
It drastically reduces their defensive resistance.
And then there's the specific vocabulary choice. Like instead of saying, "Give me a room" or "Put me in a room," the guest asks to allocate a room. That feels very intentional to me.
It is very intentional. Allocate elevates the register of the conversation.
It sounds fancy.
It is formal, operational vocabulary. By using a word like allocate, you signal to the staff that you are a professional.
Like you speak their language.
Exactly. You are subtly demonstrating that you understand they are managing a complex inventory of rooms, not just handing out keys willy-nilly. It frames you as an insider, or at least someone who genuinely respects their logistical challenges.
And then finishing that email with, "I would be most grateful for your assistance." It's an expression of profound gratitude before the deed is even done.
Which establishes a psychological debt of goodwill.
A debt of goodwill. I love that.
You have set a tone of mutual respect and sophisticated collaboration. So when this guest finally arrives at the physical hotel building, the foundation has already been completely transformed.
That sets up the strategic check-in beautifully.
Yeah.
Because you don't just walk up and use the basic phrase, "I have a reservation."
You'd be wasting all that groundwork.
Exactly. You leverage the groundwork you've already laid. The guide suggests approaching the desk and saying, "Good evening. I have a reservation under the name listener's name. I believe I corresponded with your team yesterday regarding a room preference."
It's brilliant. By referencing the prior correspondence, you immediately differentiate yourself from the hundreds of other tired travelers checking in that afternoon.
You're not just another face anymore.
You establish a continuity of care. You are no longer an anonymous booking number. You are the organized, polite individual who reached out respectfully.
And establishing that elevated status is exactly what sets the stage for the holy grail of the hospitality industry.
Ah, yes. The upgrade.
The complimentary upgrade. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because asking for an upgrade is an incredibly delicate social dance.
It's fraught with peril.
It really is. If you do it wrong, you just sound entitled, greedy, and demanding. Reading the advanced phrasing for the upgrade in this guide, it almost feels like the guest is bending over backward to be unthreatening.
That's by design.
To me, it's like comparing a toddler demanding a toy in a store to a seasoned diplomat negotiating a delicate international treaty.
That's a great analogy.
Right. As the diplomat, you have to give the receptionist a graceful, highly rewarding way to say yes, while simultaneously making it incredibly easy for them to say no without any lingering awkwardness. But why do we need to show our cards and be so vulnerable?
Because of the power dynamics at play.
Right.
The receptionist holds the inventory, but they are also constrained by hotel policy and management oversight. If you demand an upgrade, you put them in a position where saying yes feels like giving in to a bully.
And nobody wants to reward a bully.
Exactly. And saying no to a bully creates immediate conflict,
which ruins the whole check-in experience.
The diplomatic approach disarms this entirely. Let us analyze the exact phrasing the guide provides for this masterclass approach.
Let's hear it.
The guest says, "I know it's a long shot, but I noticed the hotel doesn't seem to be at full capacity tonight. As it's our anniversary, I was wondering if there might be any possibility of a complimentary upgrade. We would be absolutely thrilled."
Man, there are so many layers of strategy packed into those 3 little sentences. Let's break them down. First, they start with, "I know it's a long shot."
This is a brilliant preemptive move.
Why?
By verbally acknowledging reality that free upgrades are rare, highly coveted, and certainly not an entitlement, you instantly disarm the receptionist.
You're showing them you get it.
You demonstrate that you are grounded in reality. You are subtly promising them that you are not going to throw a tantrum or leave a bad review if the answer is no. You remove their anxiety about rejecting you.
That makes sense. Then they provide this gentle observation. "I noticed the hotel doesn't seem to be at full capacity tonight."
This demonstrates observational intelligence, but look at the framing.
Yeah, it's very soft.
You are pointing out that the inventory might be available, but you are phrasing it with a softener, doesn't seem to be, rather than aggressively stating, "I looked online and you have 10 empty suites."
Oh, I've heard people do that. Your website says you have rooms.
It's the worst thing you can do. You are opening a door, not kicking it down.
Next comes the justification. As it's our anniversary.
You provide a narrative reason. You give the receptionist a human story.
Does this story really matter to them?
This is vital because if they do give you the upgrade, they often have to justify it in their computer system or to their manager.
Oh, I never thought of that.
But
they need an excuse to give it to you.
Exactly. It cannot just be a random act of generosity. It needs a category. Special occasion anniversary is a universally accepted reason for front desk staff to actually bend the rules.
Wow. And then the actual ask, which is just wrapped in extreme, almost hesitant politeness. I was wondering if there might be any possibility of a complimentary upgrade.
Notice the aggressive stacking of softeners there.
Yeah, wondering if, might be, any possibility.
This is the absolute core of advanced strategic language. You are entirely removing the pressure.
Because if they say no, it's totally fine. You already said it was a long shot. You gave them the easiest escape hatch in the world.
Exactly.
But if they actually have the power to say yes, you've just handed them the opportunity to be the hero of your anniversary story.
Precisely. By utilizing this highly indirect language, you elevate your status in their eyes. You move from being perceived as a demanding consumer who inherently creates friction to a respected patron who creates opportunities for the staff to provide exceptional, memorable service.
You made them want to help you.
The receptionist actively wants to help you because you have communicated in a way that deeply respects their professional position and their basic humanity.
Okay, so you've used your grandmaster chess moves, you've secured the room, and let's say you even got that incredible complimentary suite upgrade.
A huge win.
You are feeling fantastic. But a hotel stay is a multi-day affair, and eventually friction happens.
It's inevitable.
A machine breaks, or You need to figure out what to do outside the protective bubble of the hotel. How does our advanced speaker handle these moments compared to the beginner?
The C1 advanced mindset completely changes how you handle both mechanical friction and the seeking of local advice.
It's not just about complaining anymore.
No, it transforms these potential conflict points into collaborative endeavors.
Let's revisit the broken air conditioning scenario. Remember the A2 approach from earlier?
The air conditioning isn't working.
Right. You call the front desk and state the absolute binary fact. Now contrast that with the C1 approach provided in the guide. You call reception and say, "I'm so sorry to trouble you, but our air conditioning unit appears to be malfunctioning. It's making a rather loud rattling noise." Would it be possible to have someone from maintenance take a look at it?
The contrast is stark, and it all boils down to the psychology of blame.
The psychology of blame.
Let's look closely at the phrase, appears to be malfunctioning.
Right. I mean, if you're sweating in your room, why not just say, "It's broken"? Why soften it with "appears to be"?
Because bluntly stating it is broken can inadvertently sound like an accusation.
Like it's their fault.
In the high-stress environment of hospitality, front desk staff often absorb the blame for things they absolutely cannot control.
That's got to be exhausting for them.
It is. When a guest says, "Your AC is broken," it can trigger an immediate defensive response in the staff member, almost as if they personally went to your room and sabotaged the machine.
Right, like they took a wrench to it.
By saying appears to be malfunctioning, you introduce a tiny, crucial amount of objective distance.
You're stepping back from the blame.
You are not accusing the hotel. You are neutrally observing a strange phenomenon together.
It's like you're standing shoulder to shoulder looking at the problem rather than standing face to face fighting about it.
Exactly.
And then you add the specific detail. It's making a rather loud, rattling noise.
You are providing diagnostic information. You are no longer just a complainer demanding comfort.
You're helping.
You have become a collaborator in solving the puzzle. You are giving them the specific clues their maintenance team needs to fix it efficiently.
And finally, the request for a solution. Would it be possible to have someone from maintenance take a look at it?
Again, the strategic use of softeners. You are not aggressively demanding a new room or a manager or a refund.
You're just asking for the next logical step.
You are suggesting the most logical next step in solving the shared puzzle. This collaborative phrasing protects the ego of the staff member. It de-escalates the panic, which almost always ensures a much faster, more willing response from the maintenance team.
It's amazing how much heavy lifting those few extra words do.
Language is incredibly powerful.
Now, what about when things aren't broken, but you just want to leave the property and explore the city? The guide highlights the critical importance of leveraging the concierge.
A massively underused resource.
And it makes a great point that a basic level learner might not even understand what a concierge truly does. They might just think it's a person standing behind a desk whose only job is to hand out glossy paper maps.
Which is a tragic underutilization of an incredibly valuable resource.
What are they, really, then?
A true hotel concierge is not a map provider. They are a highly connected local expert. Their entire professional existence, and often their personal passion, is dedicated to knowing the intricate nuances of the city.
Like what?
The impossible restaurant bookings, the shifting cultural events, the hidden attractions that aren't plastered all over TripAdvisor.
But the guide emphasizes that extracting good advice from this local expert requires a very specific linguistic strategy.
You can't just ask a vague question.
You really can't. You can't just walk up and say, "Where is a good restaurant?" That's the A2 approach, and it gets you a mediocre result.
You'll end up at a tourist trap.
I like to think of the concierge as a highly advanced human search engine. If you just type the word food into a search engine, you are going to get terrible generic results. Probably the closest international fast food chain.
Exactly.
To get the profound results, you have to use advanced search operators. You have to provide what the guide calls a clear brief.
A clear brief is absolutely essential for a successful concierge interaction.
So what does that look like?
The text provides a brilliant example of the perfect prompt. The advanced guest says, "We were hoping for a dinner recommendation for this evening. We're looking for something with authentic regional cuisine, perhaps a place that's popular with locals rather than tourists. Our budget is mid-range. Do you have any hidden gems you could suggest?"
Look at all the specific parameters packed into that one prompt.
It's dense.
Parameter 1, authentic regional cuisine. Parameter 2, popular with locals rather than tourists. Parameter 3, mid-range budget.
And then ending by specifically asking for hidden gems.
It gives them so much to work with.
But wait, let me push back on this a little bit.
Go ahead.
As someone who has worked in customer service, if a customer walked up to me with 4 highly specific, rigid parameters for a dinner recommendation, I feel like my brain would freeze.
You'd feel overwhelmed.
I would panic trying to find the one perfect place that checks every single box. How is giving the concierge this incredibly strict rubric actually making their life easier?
It's a very fair question. The difference lies in the expertise of the person you are speaking to.
Okay, explain that.
For a general service worker, yes, that might induce panic, but a concierge is an expert cataloger of local experiences. If you ask a concierge a vague question like, "Where should we eat?" you actually cause them intense anxiety.
Really? Why?
Because they have to silently guess your budget, your taste, your tolerance for crowds, and your desired atmosphere.
Oh, and if they guess wrong?
If they guess wrong, you will have a terrible night and you will blame them.
That makes sense. If we connect this to the bigger picture by giving them a highly specific box to work within the parameters of your clear brief, you completely remove the guesswork. You eliminate their anxiety.
You're narrowing the field for them.
You allow them to access their specialized mental database quickly and confidently. They know exactly which hidden gem fits that precise profile, and frankly, they are thrilled to share it with someone who clearly appreciates the nuance of their city.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
You are giving them the opportunity to be genuinely helpful and flex their specialized knowledge without the fear of failure. It's a win-win.
Precisely. The collaborative, highly detailed language empowers the staff to perform at their absolute best, which directly and consistently results in a vastly superior, tailor-made travel experience for you.
Okay, so you've had this magical stay. You pre-negotiated the quiet room. You flawlessly executed the diplomatic upgrade. You handled the rattling air conditioner as a collaborative puzzle.
A very successful trip so far.
And you ate incredible regional food at a hidden gem recommended by your new best friend, the concierge.
The perfect vacation.
But, inevitably, all trips must come to an end. And this brings us to the final phase of our journey, the graceful exit.
This is where things often fall apart.
Because the final interaction at the desk is often where the most intense friction can occur, almost exclusively because it involves money.
The checkout process is a highly vulnerable, critical juncture, and the guide introduces an important piece of industry terminology here, the folio.
The folio, I love that word.
It's very classic.
It sounds like an ancient Shakespearean manuscript kept under glass in a museum, but in this context, it's really just your final itemized bill, right?
Correct. The folio is the comprehensive financial record of your entire stay.
So it's everything.
Everything. It includes the room rate, the local taxes, and crucially, any of those incidentals we discussed hours ago.
Right, the mini bar charges.
And it is during the guest's review of the folio that disputes most frequently arise.
And the guide provides very specific instructions on the art of the dispute. It uses a classic example. An incorrect charge.
It happens all the time.
Let's say you are looking over the folio and you see a $15 charge for a bottle of sparkling water from the minibar that you absolutely did not touch.
Frustrating.
Very. The basic A2 survival instinct is to point your finger at the piece of paper, look at the receptionist, and firmly say, "This is wrong."
Which is an immediate catastrophic escalation.
Really, just saying this is wrong.
Yes. It is a direct, blunt confrontation that implies one of two things. Either the hotel is completely incompetent and makes careless errors,
Which insults their intelligence.
or worse, they are actively attempting to steal from you by overcharging intentionally.
Right, it's inherently combative. You're calling them thieves.
Exactly. But the C1 masterclass approach handles this financial friction entirely differently.
Okay, what's the advanced move?
The advanced guest approaches the receptionist, points to the folio gently, and says, "Excuse me, I was just reviewing the folio, and I think there may be a slight error. I seem to have been charged for a minibar item on Tuesday, but I don't believe we consumed anything. Could you possibly double-check that for me?"
This specific phrasing is a masterclass in psychological de-escalation.
It truly is.
The entire strategy relies heavily on softening language and distancing techniques. Let's start with, "I think there may be a slight error."
Notice the intentional use of the word slight.
Yeah, it's not a massive disaster, it's just a slight error.
It minimizes the severity of the financial issue before the conversation even truly begins. It lowers the temperature in the room.
And then comes the absolute magic trick of a phrase. I seem to have been charged.
Yes, I seem to have been charged. In English grammar, this is a passive construction, and it is used brilliantly here.
Why is passive voice so important here?
It completely removes the personal agent of the action. You are not pointing a finger and saying, you charged me incorrectly, or your hotel made a mistake.
They're not attacking anyone.
By saying, I seem to have been charged, you are framing the issue as a neutral, bureaucratic glitch in the cosmic system.
A glitch in the matrix.
Exactly. It is a mystery that has simply occurred, rather than an attack perpetrated by the staff member standing in front of you.
It goes back to that collaborative mindset we talked about. You're inviting the receptionist to look at this weird computer glitch with you side by side, rather than standing face to face in opposition over a $15 bottle of water.
It changes the entire physical dynamic.
And then you end the interaction with, could you possibly double check that for me?
Which, once again, grants them the autonomy to investigate and correct the system error without ever having to verbally admit personal fault or suffer a public loss of face.
You give them out.
Because you have made it so socially comfortable and non-threatening for them, the receptionist will almost always happily tap a few keys and remove the charge immediately.
It's brilliant because it avoids the fight entirely while still getting your money back.
That's the ultimate goal.
But the graceful exit doesn't just stop with paying the bill and fixing errors. The guide strongly emphasizes that a truly advanced C1 speaker leaves a legacy.
They don't just walk out the door.
Right. They move far beyond a simple baseline thank you as they grab their bags.
An advanced speaker deeply understands the lasting power of specific, targeted, positive feedback.
What does that sound like?
The example provided in the text for the final goodbye is, I just wanted to say thank you for a wonderful stay. The service has been truly outstanding, and your restaurant recommendations were spot on. We'll be sure to recommend your hotel to our friends.
There's a great idiom in that sentence that the guide breaks down. Spot on.
Yes, spot on is an idiom meaning perfectly accurate or exactly right.
Using an idiom like that at the very end of your stay, what does that actually signal to the staff?
On a linguistic level, it signals near-native fluency and comfort with the language.
It shows you're not just reading from a textbook.
But on a human level, it signals genuine, unscripted appreciation. It proves to the staff that you aren't just blindly reciting a polite, memorized formula from a phrase book. You are taking the time to reflect on the specific, positive impact their individual actions, like the concierge's restaurant choice, had on your personal life.
I do have to ask, though, let's think about the reality of this moment, right? You've got your heavy luggage again. Your taxi to the airport is literally idling outside the sliding glass doors.
The meter is running.
You are stressed about security lines and making your flight. Is it really, truly worth putting in all this mental effort to craft highly specific, idiom-laced, personalized feedback right as you're physically running out the door?
It is absolutely worth it for two vital reasons.
Let's hear the first one.
First, from a human perspective, providing specific feedback transforms the entire multi-day stay from a cold transactional exchange of money for shelter into a warm, sophisticated human interaction.
It acknowledges their humanity.
You must remember that hospitality is an incredibly demanding, emotionally draining industry. Front desk staff absorb complaints and stress all day long.
They really do.
When you intentionally pause, even when you are rushing for a flight, to deliver tailored praise, you leave a profound, lasting, positive impression. It drastically boosts the morale of the human being behind the desk.
And the second reason?
Pragmatism. Hotels keep meticulous digital records.
Like a file on you.
They have guest profiles. If you establish a legacy as a respectful, appreciative, and highly communicative patron, a guest who handles friction with grace and offers specific praise, that reputation is logged.
It goes on your permanent record.
It will precede you the next time you visit that property, or sometimes even other properties in that brand's portfolio. It virtually guarantees that you will receive exceptional, top-tier service in the future.
So what does this all mean? We've traveled the entire life cycle of a trip, from the pre-arrival email in your living room to walking through the lobby doors to finally hopping into the taxi to the airport.
It's quite a journey.
And the journey we've mapped out from this guide is incredible. We've seen that, yes, you can absolutely survive a hotel stay with the basic A2 essential tools.
You could be fine.
You can hand over your passport, give them a card for incidentals, state your problems bluntly, and get out alive. But more importantly, we now understand the mechanics behind the advanced linguistic strategies.
The Grandmaster moves.
By utilizing softeners, employing indirect request, removing the psychology of blame, and embracing collaborative phrasing, we've learned that you gain the power to actively shape a truly exceptional experience.
And that is the ultimate core takeaway from this material. The language you deploy literally dictates the reality you experience.
For you listening, this means that mastering these advanced techniques is not just about passing an English proficiency test or sounding smart to a stranger.
Not at all.
It is about learning how to navigate complex, high-pressure social environments with grace and confidence. When you know exactly how to wield your words to get the best possible results while maintaining respect for everyone involved, it reduces travel anxiety entirely.
It puts you in control.
You are no longer at the mercy of the front desk. You are an active, respected partner in the process.
Which raises a final, very important question to consider as we conclude our deep dive. We have spent this entire time applying these strategies to a hotel environment. But if softening our language, if framing our problems collaboratively by consciously choosing to say things like, there appears to be a slight error, instead of aggressively stating you made a mistake, if that can completely transform our experience with a total stranger in a foreign city, imagine the broader applications. Extrapolate this C1 advanced mindset to the rest of your daily life.
Right. Think about using that exact phrasing to resolve a tense conflict with a coworker at the office, or, I don't know, navigating a sudden heated disagreement with your partner at home.
It changes everything.
It appears there's been a miscommunication versus you aren't listening to me. The difference is staggering.
Exactly. Imagine how applying this level of strategic empathy could revolutionize our everyday interactions. It challenges us to ask a profound question about how we communicate. Is true fluency really just about having a massive vocabulary and perfect grammar? Or is it fundamentally about empathy, social strategy, and a deep understanding of the humanity of the person sitting across from you?
Imagine you're standing at the front of a conveyor belt.
Okay.
And you are a highly educated, perfectly articulate adult. You navigate complex relationships in this really demanding career every single day.
Right.
But suddenly a person in a blue uniform points at your shoes and your brain just completely short circuits. You literally forget what the word laptop means.
It's so true.
You suddenly don't know how to unbuckle your own belt. You're just staring at this gray plastic bin like it's some kind of alien artifact.
Like you've never seen a bin before in your life.
Exactly. It's like, why does a perfectly competent human being suddenly lose the ability to speak in full sentences the moment they step into an airport security line? So today we are doing a deep dive into the hidden linguistics of the airport.
Yeah, we're looking at how the words you use or the words you lose really dictate your entire travel experience.
Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. I am so excited about this one.
It really is a profound psychological phenomenon, honestly. You step through those sliding glass doors at the terminal, and you are immediately hit with sensory and cognitive overload.
Oh, absolutely. The smell alone.
Right. The air smells uniquely of jet fuel, duty-free perfume, and just generalized ambient panic.
Ambient panic is the perfect way to describe it.
And there are ticking clocks everywhere, incomprehensible acronyms, massive screens flashing red and yellow. There's this constant hum of overlapping announcements.
It's overwhelming.
It is. Your brain registers that you are in a very high-stakes, highly controlled environment. So your cortisol spikes.
And when cortisol spikes, things go wrong linguistically, right?
Yeah, the language centers in our brain are actually chemically altered by that stress.
And that is exactly what makes today's source material so fascinating. We're looking at this brilliant language and communication guide that zeroes in specifically on airport navigation.
It's a really unique text.
What I absolutely love about it is that it frames the airport as the final ultimate boss level of a travel communication trilogy.
The boss level. I love that analogy.
Think about it. For the listener out there, you've figured out how to order food at a restaurant without an incident. You've mastered the nuances of the hotel front desk. But the airport...
It's a completely different beast.
Totally. The airport is just an entirely different dimension.
Well, boss level is the perfect analogy because the fundamental power dynamics have shifted entirely.
How so?
So in a restaurant or a hotel, the dynamic is still heavily tilted in your favor, right? You're the consumer.
Yeah, the customer is always right kind of thing.
Exactly. If you stumble through a sentence or, use the wrong vocabulary while ordering dinner, the waiter is still highly motivated to decipher your meaning and bring you your food.
because they want the tip.
They want the tip, they want the good review, but the airport does not care.
It really doesn't.
No, it is a massive, indifferent machine designed for one thing, which is maximum throughput.
Wow. Maximum throughput. And our mission today is to decode the exact language required to survive that machine.
And not just survive it.
Right. We aren't stopping at survival. Our guide breaks this journey down into two distinct phases.
Which is really helpful.
Yeah. So first, we're going to look at the baseline algorithm of travel communication. Like how to not get crushed by the gears of the machine.
Just the basics.
But then we're going to look at how to level up to what the source calls a masterclass proficiency.
This is the really exciting part.
It is.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets incredibly compelling for you listening right now, because we are going to explore how consciously shifting your vocabulary can completely alter the power dynamic of your trip.
Moving you from a passive victim to an empowered participant.
Exactly. You move from being this stressed out bitch of the airport to an active participant who actually controls the reality of the situation.
To really understand this shift, though, we need to introduce the framework our source uses. The guide categorizes airport language using the CEFR scale.
Remind me, that's the common European framework of reference for languages, right?
Spot on. Now, you don't need to be a linguist to understand why this matters here. The guide essentially divides our behavior into two camps.
Okay, what are they?
There's the A2 to B1 level and then the C1 level.
So A2 to B1 is like the intermediate stuff.
Right. It's intermediate survival language. It is purely transactional. It's the language of basic biological or spatial needs.
Like, where's the bathroom? Or here's my passport.
Exactly. The C1 level, however, is advanced proficiency. But cognitively, C1 isn't just about knowing bigger words.
It's not just breaking out a thesaurus.
No, not at all. It is about understanding nuance, subtext, and pragmatics.
Pragmatics being how context contributes to meaning.
Exactly. A C1 speaker anticipates friction. They manage the emotional state of the person they are talking to, and they use language to actively negotiate reality.
Okay, so let's start with the baseline then. Part 1 of our source material focuses on those absolute essentials, that A2 to B1 survival mode.
The absolute core goal here is purely biological and geographic.
Right, you just need to get your physical body from the automatic doors at the curb to your assigned seat on the airplane without, like, inducing a panic attack.
And at this level, as you noted, it is highly transactional. Emotional nuance is stripped away entirely.
You're not there to make friends.
No, you are not there to make friends with the desk agent. You are there to exchange necessary data points in order to receive physical access to the next secure zone.
When I was reading through this section of the guide, I honestly couldn't help but compare it to a basic computer algorithm.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it's literally an if X then say Y decision tree. You are learning the specific inputs required to trigger the correct outputs from the airport staff.
Right.
Like, if the agent asks for identification, the required input is handing over the physical passport, and the output is receiving the ticket.
That algorithmic perspective is vital to understanding the psychology of the airport staff, actually.
Oh, so?
Well, think about the agents behind those check-in desks. They are processing hundreds of human beings every single hour.
They're relentless.
It is. And they are staring at terminal screens that literally operate on decision trees and drop-down menus.
Oh, right. The actual software is an algorithm.
Exactly. So they do not want a narrative about your morning traffic jam. They want the exact string of words that allows them to hit the next button on their keyboard.
So any deviation from the script on your part causes friction in their software.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's walk through this algorithm step by step. Step 1, you walk through the sliding doors.
Right.
And the very first thing the guide points out is that your initial interaction isn't even verbal.
It's entirely visual.
Yeah, it's a visual sorting mechanism. You have to locate the massive departure screen, scan for your specific flight number and destination, and figure out which numbered desk you're supposed to walk toward.
Because this is your first test of systemic compliance. The airport is actively filtering you.
Filtering you out.
Right.
So you follow the signs, you get into the zigzag line, and you finally step up to the desk.
The moment of truth.
The guide highlights the absolute ideal opening phrase here. It's incredibly simple, but highly specific in its pragmatics.
And that phrase is,
"Hello, I'd like to check in for my flight to London."
I'd like to check in. It sounds so mundane, but linguistically, it is what we call an illocutionary act.
An illocutionary act, what does that mean?
It means you are declaring the specific legal and logistical purpose of your presence. You aren't just saying words. The words are an action.
Oh, interesting.
And what our source points out as absolutely crucial here is the accompanying physical action.
Right, you don't just say the phrase.
No, you must have your documents ready and physically offer them as you speak.
Because the agent's programmed response is waiting for that.
Exactly. The next step in their mental flowchart is invariably, can I see your passport, please?
So if you wait for them to ask and then, spend 3 minutes excavating your backpack to find your passport while making small talk, you are aggressively disrupting the algorithm.
You're crashing their system, basically.
We have all been stuck behind that person in line, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's the worst.
You can literally feel the collective blood pressure of the entire terminal rising while they dig past their gym shoes to find their ID.
Well, cognitive tunneling happens to people under stress. They lose situational awareness. They forget there's a line behind them.
But the moment you finally hand over that passport, we arrive at what the guide identifies as the most critical vocabulary distinction in this entire survival phase.
The baggage sorting?
Yes. And this terminology completely trips people up.
It really does.
Because in our everyday lives, the word checking means to look at something or verify it.
Right, like let me check my watch.
Or I need to check the oven. But the moment you enter an airport, checking a bag takes on this heavy institutional meaning.
It does. It means you are surrendering a massive piece of luggage to a corporation.
So they can put it on a conveyor belt, set it into some subterranean labyrinth, and load it into the belly of an aircraft.
You are executing a formal transfer of custody. That's the legal reality.
Transfer of custody? That sounds so serious.
Well, you are entering the item into their tracking system, their checks. You are officially separating your physical self from your belongings.
And from a psychological standpoint, that triggers a very primal vulnerability, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Because our luggage contains our survival kit for a foreign environment, our clothes, our toiletries.
Everything we need.
So the language we use here has to be precise because the anxiety of losing those items is so incredibly high.
The guide also emphasizes the structural counterpoint to this, which is the carry-on or hand luggage.
Right.
We're talking about the backpack, the small roller suitcase, the thing you flat out refuse to let out of your sight.
Precisely. And knowing the rigid distinction between checked baggage and carry-on luggage isn't just a vocabulary quiz to pass the time.
Whoa.
No, it is a structural and mathematical necessity for the airline.
Wait, a mathematical necessity?
Yeah. When the agent asks, and do you have any carry-on luggage, your ability to accurately point to your backpack and say, yes, just this carry-on, well, that finalizes the fiscal inventory part of the transaction.
Because they have to weigh the plane.
Exactly. They are calculating the weight and balance of a multi-ton aluminum tube hurtling through the sky. Your linguistic precision feeds their math.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
My words become their weight calculations.
They literally do.
So once that math is done, you receive the ultimate prize of this interaction, the output of the check-in algorithm, the boarding pass.
The golden ticket.
Yes. The source describes this piece of paper or the QR code on your phone as your vital authorization token.
Right. It holds the two most important data points for the rest of your geographic journey, the gate number and the seat number.
Without it, you cease to exist in the eyes of the airport.
You're just a ghost in the terminal.
It proves you have successfully executed the first set of commands and have been granted permission to approach the threshold of the next zone.
Which brings us to step 2.
Step 2, and this is the threshold that truly tests the human nervous system.
The security checkpoint.
The security checkpoint. Reading through the source material, I was really struck by the realization of how deeply our communication style is forced to change here.
It's a drastic shift.
The guide calls it the compliance paradox.
Which is such a brilliant way to frame it.
Right. Why is it that the more fluent, conversational, and friendly you try to be at security, the worse your experience becomes?
Well, the reason conversational language completely breaks down here is because the spatial and legal authority dynamic fundamentally shifts.
Okay, unpack that for us.
So when you were at the check-in desk, you were engaged in a transaction. You were a consumer requesting a service from a corporate entity.
I was buying something.
Right. But the moment you step into the security line, you are no longer a customer.
What am I?
You are a civilian entering a federally or nationally restricted zone.
Oh, right.
You are strictly following commands from authority figures whose sole directive is threat mitigation.
That distinction makes so much sense. It's no longer a conversation at all, it's a compliance test.
Exactly. The guide notes that the linguistics here focus entirely on directives and imperatives.
Like commands.
Yeah, the officers are not asking for your preferences. They use phrasing like, please take your laptop out of your bag, empty your pockets, shoes off.
Very clipped, very direct.
In linguistics, there is a concept called Grice's maxims. They govern how normal cooperative conversation works.
Okay.
But at the security checkpoint, those maxims are entirely suspended.
The goal is not mutual understanding anymore.
No. The goal is to separate inorganic items into plastic trays, push biological entities through a millimeter wave scanner, and keep the line moving without a security breach.
It's wild how passive we are required to become. Actually, I have a perfect, somewhat embarrassing example of this.
Oh, please, sure.
A few years ago, I was going through security, and I was wearing this weird vintage belt with a really complicated clasp.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. The officer told me to take it off, and I got nervous because it was stuck. So I tried to use humor to diffuse the tension.
Oh, no.
At TSA, yes. I started babbling, saying something like, oh, I'm stuck. I think I need a blowtorch to get this thing off.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. The silence from that officer, it practically froze my blood.
I bet.
They did not laugh. They stepped back, put their hand up, and gave me a look that suggested I was about to be tackled into the linoleum.
Wow.
I learned the hard way that humor is essentially illegal at the TSA checkpoint.
It really is, because in that specific architectural space, humor is considered a threat vector.
A threat vector just for making a joke.
Yes. The officers are trained to look for behavioral anomalies. When you use complex language, when you babble, or when you attempt sarcasm, you force the officer's brain to allocate cognitive resources to interpret your pragmatics.
So they have to figure out if I'm kidding or crazy.
Exactly. Are you making a joke? Or are you acting erratic because you are hiding something? By forcing them to guess, you become an anomaly.
So the compliance paradox dictates that the smartest thing a fluent speaker can do here is become completely silently obedient.
Silently obedient is the key.
So assuming we empty our pockets, keep our mouths shut, and make it through the scanner without triggering a pat-down.
Which is always a relief.
We grab our shoes and head to step 3, the gate and the cabin.
Which is a return to a more standard, albeit still highly structured, commercial environment.
Right. The guide says the primary task here is navigational.
You look at that boarding pass you earned back at check-in.
You find gate B27, and you just follow the arrows. But the crucial auditory task is listening for the boarding announcements.
And the language here is fascinating because it is so incredibly sterile.
Sterile, but highly engineered.
Yes. You aren't listening for your individual name. You are listening for categorical group assignments.
The standard phraseology our guide highlights is, we would now like to invite passengers in groups 1 and 2 to board.
We would like to invite you.
It always strikes me how polite that sounds. It's essentially a cattle call.
It really is.
They're moving human cargo from a holding pen into a tube, but they dress it up in the language of a dinner party invitation.
It is the weaponization of hospitality for the purpose of crowd control.
Weaponization of hospitality. That is so perfectly put.
Think about it. They are calling subsets of data. If your boarding pass says group 4, your specific instruction is to remain completely stationary.
Right. Don't move.
But by framing it as an invitation rather than a command, the airline maintains the illusion of luxury and customer service.
While quietly preventing the physical chaos of 200 people rushing a single glass door simultaneously.
Exactly. It keeps the peace.
So finally, your group is invited. You walk down the jet bridge, you squeeze past the person stuffing an oversized bag into the overhead bin, and you sit down.
You've made it to the final physical zone.
The source points out that once you are on board, interacting with the cabin crew, the language shifts yet again.
It reverts to simple, polite requests.
Yes. The cognitive load shifts from navigation and security compliance back to basic hospitality and comfort.
The guide highlights very basic A2 or B1 phrasing here.
Like, excuse me, can I have a glass of water, please? Or can I have a blanket, please?
It is rudimentary by design.
Because they're busy.
Very. The cabin crew is managing the biological and emotional needs of hundreds of passengers in a confined, pressurized space.
Simple, direct, and polite requests are the most efficient way to communicate.
Right. You excuse me, to gently interrupt their task sequence.
And can I have to state the request unambiguously?
And please to soften the interaction and acknowledge their effort.
So, looking back at this first half of the deep dive, this essentials guide, if you follow this algorithm, if you use these exact inputs, and if the airport operates flawlessly,
Huge if.
But if it does, you will get from the curb to your seat. The algorithm works.
It works perfectly, assuming the massive interlocking global aviation system is functioning without a single error.
Exactly. And that is the massive, unavoidable caveat.
Travel is never perfect.
Anyone who has traveled more than once knows that travel is rarely, if ever, perfect. Conveyor belts jam, weather systems, ground fleets, and digital reservations just vanish into the ether.
And here's where the conversation gets truly fascinating.
Because when the system breaks down, that basic if X, then Y algorithm completely fails you.
Totally fails.
You cannot simply repeat for it. I'd like to check in if the gate agent screen says you do not exist.
And that is the precise threshold between survival and mastery. When the algorithm fails, rote memorization is useless.
What do you need instead?
You need linguistic strategy.
And that takes us directly into the heart of this deep dive, the masterclass.
C1 level.
We are talking about how you shift from being a passive passenger waiting for instructions to becoming an active problem solver.
But we need to be very careful to define what this C1 mindset actually is in practice.
Okay, let's define it.
Because it is not about pulling out a thesaurus at the check-in desk to sound intellectual.
Right. You don't want to walk up and say, "Greetings, I wish to embark upon my aviation journey."
You just sound unhinged.
You really would.
The philosophy of the proficient speaker is about system optimization and locus of control.
Locus of control, I like that.
It is no longer about just getting through the checkpoint. It is about actively managing the experience, anticipating friction points before they occur.
And interacting with the airport staff from a position of what the guide calls quiet confidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as impedance matching.
Impedance matching, like in audio engineering.
Precisely. In audio engineering, if the output of an amplifier doesn't match the input of a speaker, you get distortion and signal loss.
Okay.
The C1 traveler adjusts their linguistic frequency to perfectly match the frequency of the airport system.
Ensuring that their signal, their request, is received clearly without causing defensive distortion in the staff.
Yes, you aren't reacting to the system, you are navigating it with intention.
I love that concept. You're tuning your frequency to bypass their defenses.
It's exactly that.
So let's look at the first scenario the guide presents for this masterclass level, because it is literally a traveler's worst nightmare.
Oh, the missing reservation.
Yeah. Yes. Imagine it. You do everything right. You show up 2 hours early. You step up to the desk, hand over your passport, and the agent looks at the screen.
The dread.
They frown, they type a little harder, they hit the backspace key a few times,
Never a good sign.
and then they look up at you and say, "I'm sorry, I can't seem to find your reservation in the system."
A beginner or someone relying purely on survival language will almost always panic here.
Because the system has rejected their only input.
Right. Their cortisol floods their system and they resort to fight or flight responses.
My heart rate spikes just describing it honestly.
It's terrifying.
The instinct is usually to freeze, or worse, get defensive and loud.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? I bought a ticket. Look again. I have a flight today.
Which helps no one.
But the guide breaks down how an advanced C1 speaker handles this terrifying moment, and the contrast is absolutely stunning.
Let's dissect the proficient response the guide provides. Instead of panic or volume, the C1 speaker pauses and says, "That's odd."
That's odd.
I have the confirmation email right here. The booking reference is HT5PLO. Would it help if I showed you the itinerary?
Let's really unpack those exact words, because the psychology layered into this sentence is brilliant.
It really is.
Starting with that opening phrase, "That's odd."
Well, that's odd is honestly a masterpiece of de-escalation linguistics. I mean, think about the alternatives here.
Right, like getting angry and saying you're wrong.
Exactly. If you say that, you immediately make the agent defensive. You initiate a conflict right then and there. And if you go the other way and say, "Oh no, did I make a mistake?" You completely surrender your power.
Yeah, you weaken your position before the negotiation even starts.
You really do. So by saying "that's odd" with this calm, slightly falling intonation, you're doing something clever. You are externalizing the problem.
Externalizing.
You're creating what linguists might call a third entity.
A third entity.
Yes. It is no longer you versus the agent. It is you and the agent standing shoulder to shoulder looking at this weird, abstract third entity, which is the buggy computer glitch.
That is so smart.
You instantly frame the interaction as a partnership rather than an adversarial confrontation.
That is such a subtle but powerful shift.
And then the speaker doesn't just stand there waiting for the agent to fix it.
They immediately offer highly specific, relevant data.
The booking references.
Right. They use the precise industry terminology. They don't say my confirmation number or my secret code. They say the booking reference.
Because booking reference, or PNR, which is passenger name record, is the exact terminology the agent's software uses.
You're speaking their language.
When you use their vocabulary, you are giving them the specific data string they need to query their database via an alternate drop-down menu.
And then offering to show the itinerary. Again, a very specific, sophisticated word.
This targeted vocabulary completely shifts the passenger's identity in the eyes of the agent.
From a victim to a peer.
Exactly. You transition from being a panicked victim of a digital error to being a competent, collaborative problem solver.
You are signaling to the agent, I am organized, I speak your operational language, and I possess the documentation required to help you resolve this discrepancy.
And the agent's mirror neurons will actually pick up on your calm demeanor.
Mirror neurons.
Yeah, they will subconsciously relax and be far more inclined to work with you to override the system.
It's basically a linguistic magic trick.
Okay.
You are hacking the customer service protocol with pure calmness and precision.
It works wonders.
Let's look at another scenario from the masterclass section. This one is less about averting a crisis and more about what the source calls nuanced negotiation.
The dreaded middle seat.
The middle seat.
Yeah.
You glance down at your freshly printed boarding pass, and there it is, glaring at you. 24B.
The absolute worst.
You are destined to be sandwiched between two strangers' elbows for a 6-hour transcontinental flight.
It's a bleak future.
The basic speaker might just sigh and accept their miserable fate. Or maybe they whine to the gate agent, hey, can I get a window instead?
But let's look at the masterclass phrasing the guide provides for escaping this scenario.
Okay, what is it?
The C1 phrasing provided is, I see I've been allocated a middle seat. I know the flight is quite full. But if there's any chance of securing an aisle seat, even if it's further back in the cabin, I would be incredibly grateful.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Really? Why?
Because reading that sentence out loud, doesn't that sound incredibly robotic? Like, if I walk up to an overworked gate agent who is currently dealing with 50 other angry people, and I say words like allocated and securing, aren't I going to sound like a pretentious lawyer? Doesn't that risk alienating them?
That is a very valid critique, actually, and it cuts to the heart of what C1 proficiency truly means.
Okay, defend it.
If you march up to the desk, slam your ticket down, and loudly demand, I've been allocated a middle seat, yes, you will sound like a pretentious lawyer, and they will likely ignore you.
Right. Tone is everything.
The magic of this phrase lies entirely in the tone, the pacing, and the linguistic structure of the passive voice.
How does the passive voice help here? I was always taught to use active voice.
Listen to the construction. I see I've been allocated a middle seat. You are intentionally not saying you gave me a middle seat.
Oh, I see.
By using the passive voice, I have been allocated, you are removing the agent from the blame.
You are acknowledging that a faceless automated system assigned that seat, not the human standing in front of you.
Exactly. You strip the accusation out of the interaction.
Ah, okay. I see. You are absolving them of the crime of putting you in 24B.
And what about the middle of that sentence? I know the flight is quite full.
That is an exercise in radical empathy, isn't it?
Yes. You are preemptively acknowledging the agent's stressful reality. The gate agent spends their entire 8-hour shift dealing with passengers who operate under the delusion that they are the only person flying today.
The main character syndrome passengers.
Exactly. By openly stating the constraints that you recognize the flight is full, you validate the agent's difficulty. You are saying, I see your stress and I am not ignoring it.
I see. It's almost like you are moving with their energy instead of pushing against it. You demonstrate reasonableness.
And you even offer a concession right up front.
Even if it's further back in the cabin.
And that concession is the final, brilliant strategic move. You are demonstrating absolute flexibility.
You aren't asking for a miracle or a free upgrade to first class.
No, you are asking for a realistic, lateral adjustment.
This combination of the blameless passive voice, radical empathy for their workload, and stated flexibility makes the agent actually want to help you.
You have actively separated yourself from the mass of demanding, entitled passengers. You are presenting yourself as the one reasonable human being they've dealt with all day.
It's impedance matching again. You lower the resistance so they are willing to receive your request.
Exactly right.
So the takeaway here is that you can literally talk your way into a more physically comfortable travel experience.
Just by choosing your words carefully.
Securing an aisle seat is a fantastic, tangible perk that proves the value of this masterclass language. But the source material takes us to an even darker, much higher stakes environment.
The ultimate test of the traveler.
Right, because negotiating a better seat is a luxury when the planes are actually flying. But the true test of mastery, the final exam of this airport boss level, is when the entire physical and logistical system grinds to an absolute halt.
And this brings us to part 3 of our deep dive. Power, authority, and the subtext of travel.
We have to examine how language operates during massive systemic failures.
The scenario the source paints here is visceral.
You are standing in the terminal, looking up at the massive departures board, the little yellow letters flip over, and suddenly your flight goes from on time to displaying a massive 4-hour delay.
Gut punch.
Or worse, the dreaded red letters appear. Canceled.
Everyone's worst fear.
I will be totally honest with you. My first instinct in this situation is usually to find a relatively clean patch of carpet near a wall outlet, sit on the floor, plug in my phone, and just sigh.
Just give up.
I become a completely passive entity. I just accept my fate. How does a masterclass speaker handle a total systemic crash?
Well, your instinct to sit on the floor is incredibly common.
Thank you.
But the expert analysis in our source points out a fundamental truth about systemic failures. A proficient C1 speaker knows their legal rights, and they use highly specific language to establish themselves immediately as an informed consumer.
When you sit on the floor and sigh, you accept the role of a powerless victim.
Exactly. When you eventually approach the customer service desk, the exact words you choose dictate whether the airline treats you as a nuisance to be swatted away or a priority to be resolved.
The source gives us some specific power phrases for this breakdown scenario.
Let's look at the delay first.
The proficient speaker approaches the desk, maintains eye contact, and says, "Good morning. I see our flight has a significant delay. Could you please advise me on the current situation?"
And then they add, also, could you clarify what provisions are being made regarding meal vouchers in line with the carrier's obligations?
Wow. Every single word in that sequence is carrying immense weight. Let's start with significant delay.
You aren't just whining, why are we late? You are categorizing the event using specific industry standard terminology.
Why does significant matter?
Because in aviation law, a significant delay, which is often defined as over 3 hours, is the actual legal trigger for specific passenger compensation protocols.
Oh, so you're speaking the law to them.
Subtly, yes. And saying, advise me on the current situation instead of what's going on.
What's going on is an emotional plea from a confused person. Advise me on the current situation is a professional request for a logistical status update from an equal.
Spot on. But the true heavyweight phrase in this interaction is that final clause.
What provisions are being made in line with the carrier's obligations?
Just incredible phrasing.
That is just a spectacular sentence. In line with the carrier's obligations. I feel taller just reading it. It sounds distinctly legal.
It is quasi-legal, and that is the profound psychological shift the source is highlighting.
By utilizing the word obligations, you are explicitly reminding the agent that a binding legal framework exists between you and the airline.
Precisely. When you purchased your ticket, you entered into a contract of carriage. They have taken your money, and they have failed to deliver the service on time.
Therefore, they have legal and financial obligations to you.
It completely flips the power dynamic. You are forcing the airline's representative to look at you not as a complaining passenger, but as a stakeholder.
A creditor who expects a contractual resolution.
Exactly. What if the flight isn't just delayed, though? What if it is entirely canceled?
The linguistic strategy remains structurally similar, right?
Yeah.
It continues to focus on rights and immediate solutions rather than emotions.
Yes. The source suggests approaching the desk and stating, what are my options regarding being rebooked on the next available flight, either with this airline or a partner airline?
Again, the phrasing is so intentional. You aren't asking the hopeless question, what do I do now?
No. You are stating, what are my options regarding being rebooked?
You are defining the required outcome, which is rebooking, and directing them to execute it.
And I love the addition of mentioning a partner airline.
Why is that detail so important?
Because mentioning a partner airline proves to the agent that you understand the back-end mechanisms of global aviation alliances like Star Alliance or Oneworld.
Oh, because they share flights.
Exactly. You know that if their specific planes are grounded, they have the logistical ability to endorse your ticket over to a completely different airline.
You are demonstrating that you know the hidden rules of their game.
And human nature dictates that agents who are overwhelmed and exhausted will invariably prioritize the passenger who clearly knows the rules.
And asserts their rights calmly over the passenger who is simply crying or yelling.
It is about using language to construct an unignorable, authoritative presence.
It is incredibly empowering to realize that vocabulary can act as a lever to move a massive corporation.
It really is.
But as we move into the final stages of Part 3, the source transitions us away from airline customer service staff and points us toward a completely different type of authority figure.
And this is arguably the most intimidating, sweat-inducing part of international travel.
Navigating immigration and border control.
Yeah.
Yes. The stark fluorescent lights, the glass booths, the stern officers in uniform, the absolute echoing silence in the arrivals hall.
It's designed to be intimidating.
Up until now, the guide has been teaching us to use more advanced, complex language to take control of situations.
Right, multi-clause sentences, passive voice.
Invoking words like provisions and obligations. But when we finally reach the border, the source reveals a truly fascinating paradox.
It is a striking contradiction to everything we've discussed so far, but an absolutely vital one to understand.
What is it?
At the national border, advanced communication does not mean using complex, flowery sentences or demonstrating your expansive vocabulary.
In fact, doing so can be actively detrimental to your freedom of movement.
It really can. Here, true C1 proficiency means providing crisp, clear, concise, and absolutely unambiguous answers. Less is significantly more.
Wait, why is that? If I've just mastered this incredible vocabulary to get a better seat, why wouldn't I want to show off my excellent, respectful communication skills to the border officer to prove I'm a good person?
Well, because the border officer's job description has absolutely nothing to do with customer service. Their sole directive is threat detection and legal verification. They operate on deeply ingrained psychological algorithms.
What are they looking for?
They are trained to look for inconsistencies, micro-expressions of stress, hesitation, and most importantly, unnecessary elaboration.
Unnecessary elaboration, like talking too much.
Exactly. In the psychology of interrogation, over-explaining is a classic marker of deception.
Oh, wow.
If they ask a simple, direct question and you provide a long, complex, meandering answer, you aren't showing off your vocabulary. You are lighting up their suspicion protocols like a Christmas tree.
It's exactly like talking to the police. You do not offer unsolicited details.
Precisely. The guide breaks down the most common interaction in the booth. The officer looks at your passport and asks, "What is the purpose of your visit?"
And the masterclass answer provided by the guide is almost shockingly brief. Tourism for 2 weeks. Or attending a business conference in Manchester until Friday.
That's it.
It's almost clipped. But it makes sense when you think about the beginner's reaction. I actually have another perfect, cringeworthy anecdote about this.
I can't wait.
Years ago, I flew into Frankfurt. I was tired, and I was trying to be charming. The German border officer asked me the purpose of my visit, and I just started babbling.
Oh, no.
I said, oh, well, I'm here for a vacation. I've always wanted to see the architecture. And my friend Sarah, well, she's not here. She lives in Berlin, but we're meeting up.
Stop.
She said I should come down, so I'm just looking around for a bit, maybe a week or two, depending on the trains.
That is a linguistic nightmare for a border agent.
It really was.
Yeah.
The officer literally stopped stamping my passport, looked up at me with dead eyes, and started questioning me about who Sarah was.
Of course.
Why I didn't know how long I was staying, and asking for my train itineraries, which I didn't have printed.
You created so much work for them.
A 10-second interaction turned into a 10-minute interrogation because I couldn't shut up.
Your babbling is the exact trap the guide warns against. By introducing a dozen unnecessary variables like architecture, a friend named Sarah, uncertainty about your timeline, the train system.
I just kept giving them things to check.
Yes. You drastically increase the cognitive load on the officer. They now have to mentally verify all those new data points to ensure you aren't a risk to illegally immigrate.
The proficient speaker understands Grace's maxim of quantity, right?
Yes. Provide exactly as much information as is required and not one syllable more.
The officer only needs to classify you into one of their legal buckets: tourist, business or transit.
Tourism for 2 weeks gives them the exact category and the exact duration. Done.
It's precision targeting. Give them the data to check the box. But the guide also discusses the importance of anticipating follow-ups.
Because even if you are concise, sometimes they do need to dig a little deeper.
The officer's natural next question will usually be, where are you staying?
And here, physical preparation combined with verbal brevity is the ultimate sign of proficiency.
The source gives the ideal response. Staying at the Park Plaza Hotel for the first 3 nights. And crucially, as you say that, having the printed reservation details physically ready to slide under the glass partition.
You are proving that you are proactive, organized, and transparent.
You don't have to break eye contact to frantically search through your phone's email app while the line of hundreds of people waits behind you.
You provide the physical location, the duration, and you offer documentary evidence before it is even demanded.
This signals to the officer's subconscious that you are a low-risk, compliant traveler who poses absolutely no threat to the integrity of the immigration system.
You are boring. And at the border, being boring is your greatest asset.
It's almost like you are practicing aggressive compliance. You are overwhelming them with your readiness so they have no reason to doubt you.
Aggressive compliance is a fantastic term for it. You leave no cognitive gaps for suspicion to grow.
Which brings us to the final hurdle, the ultimate exit.
The very last layer of the boss level.
You hear the heavy thud of the passport stamp. You walk through the gate, you grab your bags off the carousel, and you're walking toward those final green or red doors. Customs.
You're almost out.
And you are hit with the classic question by an officer standing near the exit. Do you have anything to declare?
Such a loaded question.
I have to admit, I always feel a massive spike of unearned guilt here. Even if I am just carrying a bag of dirty laundry and a cheap refrigerator magnet I bought from my mom, I suddenly feel like an international smuggler.
We all do.
I'm always thinking, should I declare the magnet? What if the magnet violates a trade embargo? What if I accidentally brought in a piece of fruit I forgot about?
And that hesitation, that micro-expression of guilt, is exactly what the customs officer is trained to look for.
But the expert analysis in our source explains the crucial legal subtext of this final question.
Yes. When the customs officer asks if you have anything to declare, they do not care about your souvenirs, your refrigerator magnets, or your novelty t-shirts.
They aren't asking for an itemized receipt of your vacation.
Exactly. The question has specific pragmatics based in international law.
They care about highly regulated categories of goods that pose a threat to the state.
Primarily agricultural products that could introduce devastating ecological diseases, excessive amounts of alcohol or tobacco that bypass national tax structures, and large sums of cash.
Usually anything over $10,000, right?
Yeah.
Which is a primary indicator of transnational money laundering.
Right. So the subtext of the question is purely legal, ecological, and financial.
Therefore, a confident, immediate response of, no, nothing to declare, is not just a simple denial of having items.
It is a complex linguistic signal to the officer.
You are effectively communicating, I understand the complex parameters of international customs law regarding ecologically and financially regulated goods, and I can assure you that my possessions fall safely outside those parameters.
And conversely, if you hesitate, or if you neurotically say, well, I have some chocolate bars and a t-shirt and maybe a little bit of cheese.
You are demonstrating that you do not understand the law.
And because you don't understand the law, you force the officer to pull you aside, open your bags, and physically verify that your ignorance didn't also lead you to pack something actually illegal.
Precisely. Hesitation invites physical inspection. Linguistic confidence, born of a deep understanding of the subtext, grants you the final exit.
You literally talk your way to freedom.
So, stepping back and looking at this entire journey, from that first moment of saying, I'd like to check in, to the radical empathy of negotiating a middle seat, to invoking carrier obligations during a delay, all the way to the aggressive compliance of nothing to declare.
It's a massive shift.
The language you use at the airport is doing an incredible amount of heavy lifting. It isn't just about sharing basic information.
No, it is a constant, continuous broadcast of your competence, your emotional regulation, and your strategic understanding of the systems around you.
It is the ultimate real-world demonstration that knowledge, specifically linguistic knowledge, is power.
The physical environment of the airport does not change whether you are an anxious beginner or a C1 master.
The security lines are just as long, the seats in economy are just as small, and the systemic delays are just as frustrating.
What changes fundamentally is your toolkit for navigating that environment and your locus of control within it.
Let's bring this all together for everyone listening, because we have covered a massive amount of psychological and linguistic ground today.
We really have.
We started by looking at travel as an algorithm. We explored the basic survival phrases of the A2 and B1 levels.
We learned that surviving the airport is about understanding the transfer of custody with your checked bags.
Recognizing the cognitive load of the desk agents, and most importantly, understanding the compliance paradox at security, where conversational fluency becomes a liability and absolute obedience is required.
And that baseline is utterly essential. You cannot begin to strategize or negotiate until you prove you can survive the basic algorithmic demands of the space.
Right. But once you survive, we took that leap into the C1 masterclass.
We looked at the highly strategic, empowered vocabulary of the proficient speaker.
We saw how using the concept of impedance matching, saying that's odd, and using specific database terms like booking reference transforms a terrifying missing reservation from a combative panic attack into a collaborative, shoulder-to-shoulder problem-solving session.
We examined the nuanced negotiation of seating.
We unpacked how using the passive voice to diffuse blame, combined with the radical empathy of acknowledging a full flight, makes the airline staff actively want to assist you, rather than just process you.
And most importantly, we looked at how to assert your legal rights during systemic failures, like massive delays or cancellations.
We learned to invoke provisions and carrier obligations, entirely shifting the power dynamic so that you are no longer a victim sitting on the floor by a charging port, but an informed stakeholder demanding a contractual resolution.
And finally, we decoded the fascinating paradox of border authorities,
Where the ultimate mastery of language is actually knowing when to use as little of it as possible.
where a crisp, clear, unambiguous answer, stripped of all narrative and humor, is the strongest armor you can possibly wear.
It really is a complete perspective shift. Because when you consciously wield the right language, the airport stops being this terrifying place of overwhelming stress and anxiety.
It stops being something that just happens to you.
It becomes a structured, manageable space that you can actively navigate, negotiate, and even control.
It is the profound difference between being carried along helplessly by a raging current and knowing exactly how to swim.
I absolutely love that metaphor. And I think that's the perfect place to wrap up our journey for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been great.
Whether you are prepping for an international flight tomorrow morning, or you are just fascinated by the hidden mechanics of human communication and psychology, I hope you feel a little more empowered and a lot more prepared.
It has been a true pleasure unpacking the pragmatics of this material with you.
But before we let you go, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. A larger, more provocative question that extends way beyond the departure gate and the luggage carousel.
We've seen today how simply shifting our vocabulary from basic survival algorithms to strategic mastery language can fundamentally change the power dynamics in a highly stressful, bureaucratic environment like an airport.
It changes how authority figures perceive you, how their software processes you, and how massive systems respond to your presence.
Exactly.
So it makes you wonder, take a look at the rest of your life. Think about the other high-stress, systemic areas of your daily routine.
Like maybe it's sitting in a difficult performance review at work. Maybe it's trying to navigate a complex health insurance claim. Or maybe it's just dealing with endless paperwork at the local DMV.
In which of those environments are you currently relying on passive, reactive survival language, simply hoping the system doesn't crush you, when you could be actively using mastery language to assert your rights, build strategic partnerships, and completely take control of the situation?